Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. There's this very particular kind of emptiness that highly intelligent people know intimately. And it's absolutely not the emptiness of someone who has nothing. Actually, it's pretty much the exact opposite. It's that incredibly isolating feeling of someone who has everything. Or, well, at least everything they thought they wanted. And yet, they still feel totally hollow inside.
It's a question that honestly catches a lot of brilliant minds completely off guard. Why exactly do smart people feel empty? I mean, if you're someone who asks the deep questions, if you read all the right books, and you're constantly seeking to understand the mechanics of the world clearly, why does all that understanding so rarely actually translate into a real feeling of fulfillment? If you're listening to this, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about here. You understand things on a really deep level. And yet there's just this quiet ache that simply won't go away. There's this sort of haunting sense that something major is missing, that life should somehow feel way more meaningful than it currently does. It's an incredibly painful paradox, right? To realize that somehow understanding everything actually makes it harder to feel anything at all.
So, let's move into part one, the historical diagnoses, or why you are definitely not broken.
Now, what's really interesting here is how the philosopher Blaise Pascal so perfectly nailed the mechanics of an intelligent mind. You see, when you sit quietly alone, especially if you happen to have a highly active, high-functioning intellect, your mind doesn't just, take a break. It turns on itself. The questions start firing off. What's the point? Is this really all there is? Why does literally nothing feel like it's enough? And when left unanswered in that quiet room, those questions actually become a very real kind of suffering.
Believe it or not, the ancient Greeks actually had a very specific clinical word for what intelligent people suffer from here. They called it acedia. Now, historically, this often gets mistranslated as sloth, but that honestly misses the point entirely. Acedia is definitely not laziness. It is the heavy, heavy burden of seeing right through the societal games that everyone else is playing. It's realizing that the ambitions and achievements most people are constantly chasing are just illusions. An intelligent person literally sees the strings behind the puppet show of ordinary life. And the kicker? Once your mind has seen those strings, you simply cannot unsee them.
Which brings us to part two, the complication, overthinking the ache. And this brilliantly illustrates the Buddhist concept of the second arrow. So according to this tradition, the first arrow is just a standard painful experience. But the second arrow, that's the story you actively tell yourself about the pain. And frankly, intelligent people are extraordinarily good at shooting themselves with second arrows. Think about it. You don't just feel sad. You analyze exactly why you feel sad, and then you feel sad about your own analysis, and then, you analyze the analysis. It's a whole thing. You aren't just experiencing emptiness, you're constructing these elaborate, completely exhausting theories about what that emptiness actually means, and wondering if you're just, uniquely cursed.
But the Buddhist remedy to this totally exhausting intellectual loop is beautifully simple. Just come back. Don't fall back into another theory or a deeper analysis or some more sophisticated understanding of the situation. Just come back to your breath. Come back to this direct, unanalyzed experience. Because the truth is, when you stop overthinking the emptiness and just simply allow yourself to feel it for a second, it's really not as vast and terrifying as your brilliant mind makes it out to be. It's just a feeling. And as we all know, feelings always pass.
All right, let's pivot to part three, the prescriptions or cures for the mind. Aristotle actually believed that having intelligence without any clear direction is one of the most downright painful things a person can carry around. He essentially viewed the human mind as this incredibly powerful machine. Now, if that machine has something worthy to build, it absolutely thrives. But a powerful machine with nothing meaningful to build, it turns all that power inward. It deconstructs, it criticizes, and it finds flaws in literally everything. So the crucial point here is finding what he called eudaimonia. The solution isn't to somehow try and force yourself to think less. It's to step up and find a project, a calling, or some kind of engagement that truly demands your full capacity. The philosopher Seneca offered a really interesting parallel diagnosis. He believed intelligent people feel empty mainly because they're living completely on the surface of things, like they're super busy but not deep. They're connected to everyone on paper but truly known by no one. Seneca's prescription was a stark contrast to this. He prescribed depth over surface every time, deep friendship over having tons of random acquaintances, deep work over the scattered, frantic busyness we all get caught up in, true understanding instead of just blindly accumulating facts. So that emptiness, it isn't a sign that you have too much intelligence. It's just a sign that you haven't yet found a place deep enough to pour it all into.
Then, of course, we have the existentialists, particularly Albert Camus, who looked at all of this with some pretty brutal honesty. He famously called this feeling the absurd, which is basically that agonizing gap between our deeply human need for meaning and the universe's total, deafening silence on what that meaning actually is. And intelligent people, they feel this acutely because they can clearly see there's no hidden cosmic script. There's no guaranteed purpose handed down from above. Camus actually compared us to Sisyphus, the guy eternally pushing a giant boulder up a hill just to watch it roll right back down. We constantly build things that won't last, and we deeply love people we're inevitably going to lose. But let's move to and see how this actually builds into an incredibly empowering solution. Camus essentially said, do it anyway. Look, you don't just find meaning hiding under a rock somewhere. You have to create it. You do this by actively choosing what you care about, by committing fully 100% to the specific boulder you happen to be pushing. You basically refuse to let the sheer absence of cosmic certainty become a handy excuse for being completely absent from your own life. The doing, the actual messy engagement itself, that is the meaning. Let's transition into part 4, the daily practice, doing the work.
Consider Marcus Aurelius for a second. We're talking about the literal emperor of Rome, and arguably one of the smartest guys to ever walk the earth. He wrote this incredibly profound thought down in his private journal. But here's the catch. He wasn't writing this because he had it all perfectly figured out. Far from it. He wrote it as a desperate reminder to himself precisely because he hadn't. Even the emperor of Rome, a man who understood more about the world than almost anyone else alive, still woke up some mornings feeling the absolute crushing weight of that puppet show we talked about earlier. He constantly had to remind himself of his own agency. His ultimate takeaway from all that pressure was to forcefully anchor himself right back in reality. Come back, do the actual work, be totally present. This exact moment, right now, it is enough. It's such a powerful acknowledgement that yes, the emptiness is very, very real, but it is absolutely not the whole truth of your existence. So let's take a second to synthesize all this. You feel empty because you can clearly see right through those comfortable illusions everyone else relies on. Your powerful mind is always asking these massive questions that simply do not have easy answers. You hold incredibly high standards for what life should be, and let's face it, reality frequently misses the mark entirely. You crave deep, genuine stillness while living in an incredibly busy, surface-level world. And ultimately, when you get right down to it, you are just starving for a truly worthy commitment. And that brings us to our final section, part 5, your next step, transforming the signal. Listen, this emptiness you're feeling, it is not some terminal flaw in your hardware. It's actually a highly functioning alarm bell. It's a crystal clear signal telling you that you are capable of far more depth and genuine engagement than whatever you're currently experiencing. Because of that, the question you need to be asking yourself is no longer, why do I feel empty? No, the truly vital, life-changing question is, what would actually fill me? And I don't mean what should fill you or what fills your neighbors or your friends. What specific pursuit out there would actually feel like enough for your unique, specific, and brilliant mind? Because at the end of the day, the emptiness is not your enemy. It's simply your intelligence desperately looking for somewhere real to go. So, the only question left for us to answer in this explainer is this. What is that one thing out there that will demand absolutely everything you have and finally make you feel completely alive?